Hi there. Let's see. In this video, I want to talk about. I heard somebody talk about on their video channel. He interviews different people about different things, and some of them have also channeled different beings from higher dimensions. So people say aliens, but really, if you get into the whole picture, you find that we are all aliens. It's really interesting, and that the source prime creator, two aspects of the one creator. Well, as I see it, this is my understanding, and then created all of the souls, the lights, the light beings, the energy beings, right? And those energy beings then all created all of these different planets, or generated life on all of the different planets and so forth, including Earth. Earth was found to be an empty, barren place, and beautiful potential, close to the sun and warm enough, cool enough kind of thing. And so then the light beings, energy beings, came and started. And so in the Bible, it references this vaguely, sort of in its own terms. And so um, basically, we're all created from these energy beings who are created from the source. And we are these energy beings as well. And so there are different layers of existence. First density, which involves water and stone and mineral. Second density, consists of plants and animals. Third density consists of humans. And then fourth are like a lighter beings that are not so heavy and dense body, but like a lighter mass, and a more intelligent and fifth and sixth and seventh. So it becomes lighter and lighter in your density, but higher and more dense, no, more intelligent and more aware and more connected with source. And so this is my understanding of it from my study and my experience and my telepathic communication and my channeling. And so it's very strange. I'm a very reticent, hesitant customer when it comes to channeling and telepathy. This is not something I've studied and gone toward, and in psychic stuff has not been something I've gotten very much into, although I have been very drawn to like the work of Edgar Cayce and the work of a little bit of Nostradamus, but not so much. Just Edgar Cayce a little bit, not very much either. I've only read like one of his books, and but I do. But what it is I'm sort of a very investigative person by nature. And my whole life has been about spiritual practice and healing, and that's pretty much like the whole thrust of it. And so, when I study these kinds of psychic, intuitive, telepathic, these sort of paranormal things, it's to put all the pieces together. It's not because I'm like so interested in that trajectory in and of itself. A lot of my training comes from Buddhism, and in Buddhism we get there's a lot of teaching about how don't really follow that kind of stuff, the psychic, paranormal stuff, or if you get sort of like these kinds of things coming up within you, to just let them go and to just come back to yourself. And so I've always really found that that's probably a beneficial teaching, and because the whole point is that we want to evolve and grow and develop within our own soul, so that we can ascend and ascend and ascend. And while we're here, we want to be as grounded and peaceful and compassionate and patient and loving and, wise and so forth, so that we can be of benefit to the whole. Because this is a place full of an enormous amount of suffering, and in myself included. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm going to help everybody else. Well, we have to help ourselves first. We have to become peaceful within ourselves and then share that peace. And so it's largely about just enlightening and awakening ourselves. And so that's what Buddhism is focused on. And so it's like yogic practice. I've been a yogic practitioner. Anyway, so I've done all these practices and therapies and lots of work since I was the age of 13. And now I'm in my 40s. And so it's been many, many years. And I've really studied on this too, by myself, and then in universities, and gotten different certifications and degrees and so forth. So I've got all my credentials. But the point is that it's a really interesting path for me, because having these abilities, these telepathic and channeling abilities, come up naturally as I go deeper into the spiritual practice, as I move through life, heal myself and awaken more and more deeply. They're actually a natural part of who we are. And so, some folks really just focus right on that, and bless them. Whatever feels right for people. I'm not here to say this is what's right and this is what's wrong. Not at all. Each one of us is here for a specific purpose, maybe. We can choose to use whatever tools and whatever resources, whatever skills within ourselves as we choose to. And I'm here to support people and bless everybody for whatever they have to contribute. And so I just didn't feel that I would want to go down the path of channeling, and I'm definitely interested in telepathy though. And the reason why I think this has been coming up more so, although I've had this sort of inkling and noticing of it throughout my life at certain points, right? I think it's just been a part of, it's a part of each of us, because we have a higher self. And so we're constantly in telepathic communication with our higher self to varying degrees, in our dreams, in certain symbolism, in certain experiences. I hear certain songs when I'm out in public, because I don't play music at home that has words. I play music that's soundtrack or musical, instrumental rather. And so when I go out in public, there'll be songs with words, and so then, oh, that's interesting, because that makes a lot of sense for me. And so I kind of watch for it, and I really notice that sometimes it really has a lot of, it can have a lot of influence. So it's like little things you can pick up on. And it's not, we don't want to get, well, for myself, I try not to get too lost in it. I mean, it's about being moment to moment present and aware with our own being, our own bodily being, our breath and our mind and so forth. And so we can get overstimulated if we're looking too much. And so that's called superstition, because we're moving away from the core of who we are instead of towards it. That's my experience. That's my sense of it. But at the same time, it's all about balance, right? And so we can find that there are little things that, it's basically our higher self is like our unconscious self. We're unconscious of our higher self largely, but if we're investigative and we're interested, we can find more and more and more clues on what's going on here, on what to pick up on and what path to take, right? And so last year, it's an interesting story. Last year, I was doing a lot of research and study on animal telepathy, animal communicators, because I seem to have this ability naturally with some cats, and because I love cats, you just, whatever it is you're drawn to. And so, I just go for walks and jogs, and if I see cats, I like to stop and say hi to them and see if they want any pets and stuff like that. And so, so I was looking up on animal telepathy, and so I was studying that for, off and on, I just watch videos on it and kind of get into it a little bit. I didn't get any books. I didn't get really heavily into it. But what I do is I listen to what they say, and I watch how they connect with the being. And what channeling and telepathy are, it's a certain wavelength, it's a certain vibration. And so, I can watch and I can pick up on the vibration of what somebody's doing or saying, or of a being somewhere else, and recognize that vibration usually. Sometimes my mind is pretty boggled. I've been really brutalized in this lifetime. I've endured an extreme amount of violence and trauma, and so really, really bad. Growing up, and then after that, people tend to target you if you're kind of vulnerable, and so God bless. I've been doing really well. I've healed a lot, and it hasn't been happening so much anymore. I've been learning how to protect myself, one, and two, it's a matter of energy, like changing the energy pattern and changing a lot of the thought patterns, the emotion patterns, and doing deep healing on myself as well, energy healing and stuff like that. So I'm not as much of a target. I hope I'm not at all anymore. Plus I'm pretty tough and a really incredible warrior. So I'm surprised people would target me so much. But anyway, so there's a lot to all of that. But the point is like being really sensitive, a really sensitive being, makes it harder in general, even if you're not a trauma survivor, to be able to withstand the third density, especially the way that the earth is right now. The way that people are, the way that things are is really intense. And so anyway, the point is like, I just want to say that picking up on these different vibrations, all of these things are accessible to each of us. This is something that we all do subtly. We do it without really realizing it. So what I find is that it's about becoming more and more conscious of our abilities and about who we are and what we're able to do. And so now I don't just jump off into a launching pad like, oh, we are gods, and like we can create anything, just say and think it and you'll find it. It's about balance, and it's about wisdom too. We don't want to, in my experience, how I feel is that it's most beneficial to create from a groundedness of wisdom, kindness, compassion, and caring for the whole. And so the whole is all beings, including ourselves. And so just wanting to use powers just for one's own, fancy, that's up to people. That's one path. And so for those of us who really care about the whole, it's about being really intelligent and wise about how we use what we find is accessible to us in terms of, telepathy and channeling and all of the other natural capacities that we find that we have, And so I was watching videos. This is long. I kind of go down a lot of different paths. Maybe people are staying with me, hopefully. I don't know. This is how I think and this is how I operate, so please bear with me. Maybe I should say that in the beginning. Please bear with me. I'm going to go off on little tangents. It's to bring things together. Everything has a lot to it. Okay, I'll stop being the professor and just say the story. So anyway, I was watching videos on telepathy, and then I was doing meditation one day, and this was in October of last year, so around October of 2016. And so I was laying back and doing a meditation, and I basically like alternately tap because of the trauma. I learned to do this, and that it's very beneficial. And then I follow my breath, and I just relax, and I smile, and I was laying back looking at this tree out my window, kind of doing this relaxing meditation just to relax and enjoy, just enjoy resting and being peaceful. And it's not like, okay, I'm going to concentrate and focus, because I've studied in that way with Zen Buddhism. And so it's really nice to be able to take meditation and use it in a way that works for us, like what kind of meditation feels right for right now. I don't know, some people might pshaw, disagree, and that's okay. Whatever's beneficial for each of us. We're each on our own unique, blessed journey. And, we all have something very unique to contribute. And so judging anybody else's path and saying what they're doing is wrong and so forth is just a bit of a show of our lack of wisdom, and that's okay. Accepting people is beneficial. Not accepting is fine too. So whatever folks want to do. So I was laying back doing my meditation, and I started to have a sense, it's like when you pick up on, it's kind of like when you think of somebody you care about or you think of someone you love, and you can picture their face and you can like feel their energy, feel kind of that connection with them. You feel their certain personal current, it's like a unique pattern or wavelengths. And so we kind of notice that maybe it's like a picture or a smell or a feeling that we get or something like that. Well, it was a whale that I was connecting with, and I sensed, well, I have all these like interesting abilities that come together little by little, or I'm becoming more and more aware of them. And I could sense that it was female energy. Even if I read a book and I don't even know who the author is, I can pick up over time after reading it for a little ways. Usually I'm able to tell male or female in this kind of world of, you know, binaries, this or that. And so it was a female, and I picked up that she was elder, very large, very sweet, sweet energy. It was making me really just like emotional, and she was so kind, so loving, and just so wise, and so I was just connecting with her and feeling that energy. And I felt compassion towards her, like she was ill, something was wrong. And so I was feeling like sad for her, like compassion for her, you know? And then as I continued along over time, connecting with her, she was feeling compassion towards me, sadness for me. And I didn't understand why. And so it's like telepathy is like images and feelings and senses. And it's like when you receive, you're just kind of allowing these feelings to kind of flow through you and the images to kind of happen. And if I tried to speak words, if I do it with telepathy and what's the other one? Channeling, it kind of breaks up the pattern. Verbal communication on this density is actually destructive of real communication, actually. Anyway, when doing telepathy and channeling, because these other forms of energy are so much more subtle and so much more rich, you know, kind of like when we just sit quietly with people that we care about and we just feel, if we have the capacity to kind of relax and feel deeply, you know. So I was getting all these things from her, female, older. I felt sad, a lot of sadness, like she was very ill. I felt so much like sadness, but then she was telling me she's picking up on my sadness. And I was sort of open as to why. And she said to me that because I'm not connected with my family, and it occurred to me she didn't mean my biological earth family. She meant my real true family. And only a few months previous, or like a year previous, I was living up at this cabin in the woods, and I was doing meditation there. And what I did was I read Ramana Maharshi, how did he become enlightened? And it was what he did was, he was a teenager, right? This is a process, you know, everything's a process. And so the beginning of his process was that he realized he was going to die one day. And so he laid down and he he went through the death process. What happens when you die? And so he laid down. And so I did that innocently, you know. I have no idea. But from my study, I have a little sense of like, you know, we don't just like drop dead and there's nothing. I've watched a lot of near-death experience videos too, so I get a little bit of a sense of like what happens. And so I did the same thing. I projected myself into the death state, or the death state. And so I moved out of my body, or my mind moved out of my body and left, and was up, wanted to go further, but it wasn't allowed. It was only allowed to go out to a certain space in the galaxy, or to a certain extent outside of the Earth's sphere. This density is up, was way out, pretty far. And so I don't exactly know where I was, because it wasn't like a visual space so much, although it was. There I was with some of my soul family, and they were like laughing and dancing and singing and trying to get me to like lighten up and be happy. Because I can tend to get too serious, but I love to laugh and I love to joke and I love to dance and sing and stuff. So I think they were trying to make me happy. And so it was like, I think that's what, when I was having this communication with the whale, I think that's what she was referring to, is like kind of connecting with my soul family. And then that there are some here on the earth now. And I'm just so shy now, you know, after everything I've been through, and I'm just so in a deep space of healing right now. I'm very shy about using up my energy trying to connect with others, when so often it is such a drain. You know, God bless every being, every soul. It's that for me, that's been my experience. It's just that it's been so hard to find, you know, beings to connect with, people on this plane, on this earth, you know. And so this whale, oh, sorry, my computer screen just dropped out because I'm not plugged in. Okay, I'll try to wrap this up. It's already been 20 minutes. This is, that's okay. It's good. If people are interested, then it's good. I'd like to keep it shorter in the future. So anyway, so telepathy with the whale, and then she projected to me that it was, she was concerned for me, but this goes really much deeper. So I had that experience with her, right? And she was so beautiful and so, just such a beautiful soul. I can't, it was just so wonderful. I needed that healing, you know. And she probably was one of my soul group, in fact, because later I find out that I'm part of this soul group, right? And so it's kind of like putting things together. If you're like an investigative person, if you put things together, I don't know, other people who have different natures, they wake up or they learn things in different ways. I'm like an investigator. I investigate and I find one aspect. And then later there's another aspect that I come upon, and here's another one. And I get them from all different layers of my own being, from all different aspects of my own self, like emotionally, mentally, spiritually, different layers of my energy field, different levels of my conscious mind and unconscious mind. And so, oh. So then she said, I think I connected with her again, or it was that same time, and she said, you know, follow my family, follow because she was an orca. I saw her body, you know, she showed me, or I was able to see her body, so she was an orca. I looked online and I deduced that she's an orca, which is actually a dolphin, but they call them whales. They call them killer whales. Please don't call them that. I don't care for that term. Orca, they only kill in order to survive. They're not killing for fun, you know. They're beautiful, intelligent beings. They're so profoundly amazing. I just can't even. And so they're ascending apparently back to the sixth dimension where they're from. They're leading the Earth in the ascension rather. And some of us are here from sixth dimension in these human bodies, and it's much harder to, as a human, than my experience, in my opinion. But all I wanted to do was just jump into the ocean and be with them. I didn't want to even be a human. I was like trying to look up ways how I could volunteer to work with the whales and the dolphins. And so she was saying, like, be with your family. And so that had to sink in. I didn't understand what that meant. And so I looked up, I was looking at videos of whales and orcas, and then I realized that she was probably from Pod J, because around that exact time is when Grandma, the elder of the Pod J off the northwest Pacific coast, passed away. And so went back, you know, ascended back up to sixth dimension, God bless. However, her young pod was in need, you know, so the scientists follow the orcas, and are in need of a an elder to transmit all of the learning, you know, because each pod, each group of whales and dolphins is its own culture. They can't even intermix with like another group really, because it's such a unique culture. They can't understand each other's language and stuff like that, from what I've studied. And so, oh gosh, I just pray, and I've been praying, you know, sending good, positive, beneficial energy to the young J-pod, and I guess the J-pod is doing quite well, so that's really wonderful. But anyway, it was like, then I just recently studied and found out that these are, that higher dimensional beings take form as whales and dolphins. Most people who study that stuff already are like, duh, everybody knows that. I didn't know. I don't know these things. I just like find out from my own experience, because I don't get involved with a lot of stuff that people get involved with. I don't know. I get involved with like keeping my own body grounded and not insane. I have complex PTSD, you know, it's really hard. So anyway, I'm just really blessed and grateful to be able to connect with these higher dimensional beings, of which it seems very likely that I am one, and maybe I'm incorrect, I don't know. And So I'll just do more videos. This one's already 25 minutes long. But I just wanted to say something about connecting with the orca, and about these abilities, and how we are actually creators too. So we have a higher self who's also, you know, even more connected, or able, who came from more directly from the source creator, the prime source creator, and then created us, and then they created us even. And so we're like all aspects of higher and higher levels. My understanding, and you know, everything has its like some truth and not truth, because everything's so complex and intricate, and that's the way it's created by design, to make it interesting and fun. But I just want to say in closing that, you know, we have so much to offer. You know, we have so many, and I'm finding for my own self, and I don't want to be preachy, that I have so many blessed gifts, you know, and so that means that each one of us does, because we're all created equally, you know, by the source creator. And so that as we investigate and keep searching into who we truly are, you know, it's not always about being like dead serious and I'm right and this is the way. It's about like kind of enjoying the process and finding the sweetness and the joy and the connectedness, and developing further and further. Blessings.